And the explanation in the first place has to do with economics. If one is doing an exhibition which is not funded by the institution, it's obviously impossible for an individual to pay for the transport of the kind of work and the amount of work which is coming to Bangkok. The artists that are in the exhibition come from several pickup points. If I think there is Santo Domingo, there is Miami, Los Angeles, New York, there is Spain, Switzerland, Philippines, there is Australia. So to transport work from those points, if it was large-scale works, would have been enormously expensive. And I wanted to do an exhibition which looked at the idea of the transnational and bring artists together from different points in the world, in the belief that the work on paper would happily unite different attitudes towards contemporary creation. I decided that the two cheapest forms that could be used was the paper, works on paper, and secondly, video works which had no cost at all attached to them. Then the theoretical concept of the show then was to unite a group of artists around the theme of working on paper, but essentially looking at the idea of narration and underlining the fact that the nature of contemporary relation tends to be fragmentary. That is, it's no longer the lineal narration that was prevalent in the 19th century in the novel or in the work of art, and we now have a fragmentary form because we have a tendency to receive information, visual information or information on a newscast in a fragmentary sense. We're used to living in that kind of psychological situation, and we don't need to construct a completely coherent view. It's what the Romantics called the principle of negativity, which was the awareness that man could live amidst uncertainty with an immense sense of ease. And in the 20th century, that's become almost a principle of life. So a lot of the work is hung in a sense which underlines the fragmentary. I'm thinking of the Argentinian artists, the Mondongo, who've broken up the coherent pattern of a Hitchcock film. I'm thinking of Robert Laniger, who in a way is making a narration and an ironic commentary, but doing so through a barrage of fragmented images. So it's a very natural kind of procedure. So the exhibition centers on works on paper and on the idea of narration. Some of the narrations come from the individual psychology of the artist, that is directly from subjectivity, and some of them can be seen as ideologically motivated, especially those works which were done on paper and distributed in political manifestations. The group that come from Argentine work in the streets when the protest manifestation is occurring, and they print out posters for the immediate event. The Mexican artist Truth Villegas has also shown the importance of what the ideological poster was from the 50s onwards, the year that he was born in Mexico, when there was a lot of student unrest, and the posters that he selected were the kinds that were brought out during that period, and he assembled them and reprinted them into his own small book that was used in the Biennale in Santo Domingo. Some of these narrations are specifically concerned with ideological and historical positions, and others are concerned, with the inner world of the artist.
The idea or the concept of the exhibition has to do with how drawing could be a way of expressing a common experience of contemporary life and culture. By gathering all these artists together from so different origins, we can realize how they deal with global preoccupations, as well as how they try to keep or to show their local identities. I would say that it's almost a natural way of expression. Is the first that we learn drawing before we learn write, and second is drawing is a way of expression in itself, but also is part of all the other medium processes. No? Almost even in cinema they need drawing to start with the storyboard and to see how to define the scenes and the movement of the camera. But the most important thing, I believe that, as William Kentridge said, drawing can be a metaphor of the way we think and also of the way we imagine. Drawing is actually very important for art.
Drawing's the most natural and the most intimate point of departure for a work of art. Drawing is one of the most intimate registers of the body. Drawing is natural to man since early on in history. It's both a mental register, an emotional register, and also it's a physiological register. So I think drawing takes us in very close to the processes, the procedures of creation. It's one of the most natural aspects of an artist's know-how, an artist's doing. The history of art responds to outside world, but it also responds to its own history. And those points in the history tend to be cyclic. They come and they go. And for a long time in contemporary art, it appeared that drawing was not particularly present. There was an inundation of installation work. There was an inundation to satiation of conceptual work or of neo-conceptual work. There was an absolute barrage to a point of exhaustion of photography. There was a whole world of meaningless video that was being produced all across the world, and they seemed to be the kind of things that were most in fashion, and there were good reasons for them to be in fashion. Both installation, photography and video work can involve technological skills which are to do also with post-technological, post-modern societies. But what seemed to have been forgotten was also the human element of drawing with the hand. It started to come back in the 90s. I mean, this show is not original in the sense of reintroducing a return to drawing. No, drawing's been with us since the 90s, but it was a recognition that it had been out of favor for a time. I think that there's a lightness of spirit, an immediacy and a freshness in drawing which is intensely seductive for an audience. So anybody who comes into the drawing exhibition, and there are large-scale drawings as well as small-scale drawings, feels a kind of initial impact of a nervousness and freshness which is highly appealing. And that has to do with the fact that they come very close to the way the artist's minds work. It's always important, I think, drawing, but it comes and goes as a cycle of modish interest in the terms of contemporary art. We need it because it has this sense, it seems to be almost abandoned in a contemporary society, of touch, of intimate touch. Yeah, it's sensual, it's even sexual in a way. So I think it's a reminder in what we call quite often a post-human society that we still are very much human and need the reminder of so being.
I would say that the tools can change, as for instance David Hockney showed us in the last exhibition where he uses the iPad and all these digital processes of drawing, but the tool can change, but the way he does is the same. Drawing will never disappear. It's very clear because in drawing you have the time in the process of drawing, no? So you only have to record the drawing to have the movement of the line on the paper, as also Kentridge did. He discovered this way of animating drawing only by filming himself in the studio where he was working. Also, animated drawing is a way of create a complete world for the artist, you know, because they can manage the representational set of the scene. They can imagine all the process, all the scene, all the movements. So it's actually the real fiction in audiovisual terms.
I believe video obviously is an answer to a post-techno society. It's one of the most natural things to use for an artist because we're living in a much more visual society than an oral society. So video is a natural element. It's also an element, of course, which lends itself to the theme of the exhibition, which is narration, done sometimes through a fragmentary procedure, or done more as a film would be done, with a straightforward narrative line. I think also that, though nobody in this show is using it, that the video has returned very powerfully towards the idea of documentary, which tends to be also a narrative procedure. So video fits in perfectly well to a contemporary society, and here it's meeting what is the most, the thing I've constantly been emphasizing. It's coming in close to what was the most natural of mediums of man, that of drawing is the extension of the hand. Video is the extension of the eye. Yeah? So we're bringing in hand and eye, and the video artists, I think Monica will talk about the pieces, have also used drawing as a source for their work. So there is a coherency which allows the two to come together, and I just hope that it's, as I believe it is, a fecund and agreeable meeting.